Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the magical world of the Dragon Odyssey, that super addictive RPG with sprites, monsters, and more drama than a reality show. Now before you charge headfirst into battle, there's one super important decision you gotta make: picking your starting class. And trust me, with 7 different classes to choose from, it's not just about picking what looks the coolest, even though we've all done that before. Your class shapes your whole adventure, and yes, it evolves with you as you level up. So in this video, we've put together the ultimate class tier list to help you make the smartest and strongest choice right from the get-go. Whether you want to crush enemies with brute strength, cast flashy spells from afar, or maybe sneak around and strike from the shadows, we've got you covered. Let's break down which classes are top tier and which ones might just need a little love from the devs. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking classes in the Dragon Odyssey. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The classes in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right. Prophet. Alright, let's talk about a class that's a bit like that quiet friend in the group who doesn't do much damage but somehow keeps everyone alive. Yeah, I'm talking about the Prophet. Now don't get me wrong, the Prophet isn't exactly the star of the show when it comes to dealing damage or tanking hits. It's more like the team's spiritual guide who's desperately hoping their sprites and teammates pick up the slack. Healing? Sure, it's there, but it's not exactly top tier. You'll be depending heavily on those little magical buddies and your squad to actually stay in the fight. The Prophet is kind of that support, but don't expect fireworks class. It doesn't have the punch or the tankiness to lead charges or soak damage like the frontliners. If you're all about flashy kills and standing out, this probably isn't your jam. But here's the catch. Once the Prophet evolves into the Seer specialization, things get interesting. Suddenly, it gains a bit more juice in the damage and survivability department, making it a more viable pick. So if you're patient and like the idea of slowly growing into a more powerful support, that evolution is definitely your moment to shine. Honestly, the Prophet is for the players who enjoy a strategic, behind-the-scenes kind of gameplay. It's like the backstage crew at a concert. You might not be in the spotlight, but without you, the whole show falls apart. If you're someone who loves helping your team succeed by healing and buffing, and you don't mind flying under the radar while waiting for that sweet Seer upgrade, then the Prophet is your kind of class. Just remember, you're not here to be the hero. You're here to make sure the heroes stay alive. The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Berserker, Warlord, and Succubus. Alright, buckle up because we're diving into some of the B-tier classes in the Dragon Odyssey. The kind of fighters who might not be stealing all the spotlight, but definitely keep the battle exciting. First up, let's talk about the Berserker. This guy is the embodiment of raw power and sheer aggression. Think of them as the I don't ask questions, I just smash type. High health points and solid defense make the Berserker an excellent tank, especially if you push them towards the Guardian promotion. But don't expect them to rain down massive damage. They rely a lot on their sprites and team to back up the offense. It's like they're the big tough wall that dives headfirst into enemies while hoping their friends clean up the mess. Now, the Berserker's playstyle is a bit of a calculated gamble. They don't have the defensive sturdiness of some other melee classes, so it's all about timing and smart aggression. You want to hit hard and fast, but avoid getting knocked out before your team can catch up. It's kind of like being that reckless friend who jumps into a mosh pit but somehow manages to come out mostly intact. If you're the type who loves getting into the thick of the fight, feeling that adrenaline rush of smashing skulls with brute force, the Berserker will give you plenty of that thrill. Moving on to the Warlord, who is kind of like the Berserker's cousin who's a bit more tactical. The Warlord has high health points and attack power, making them solid frontline fighters who can both dish out and take a decent beating. When I had a Warlord teammate, I noticed they weren't just there to soak damage. They also help control the flow of battle by dealing steady hits to enemies. Still, they're not exactly the tankiest class out there, so their defense is a bit on the lower side. It's a bit of a trade-off. Great offense and staying power, but you need to be smart about positioning and when to retreat. Despite the lower defense and sometimes inconsistent damage, the Warlord is a solid choice if you like being in the middle of the action, swinging your weapon and keeping enemies on their toes. Plus, when you promote them to the Destroyer specialization, they really start packing a punch. So if you want a melee class that's a little less reckless than the Berserker, but still loves the front lines, Warlord might be your new best friend. Last but definitely not least, let's talk about the Succubus. This one is like a glass cannon on steroids. High burst damage and insane damage per second, especially in player versus player combat. If you promote the Succubus to the Slayer specialization, they become a nightmare for opponents who don't see them coming. From my experience, mastering the Succubus takes skill and practice, but once you get the hang of their quick, deadly combos, you'll feel like an absolute boss wiping the floor with the competition. However, don't let that flashy damage fool you. This class is super fragile. Low health and defense mean the Succubus is terrible at player versus environment battles, where you're facing hordes of enemies or tanky bosses. You'll need to be constantly on your toes, dodging attacks and picking your fights carefully. If you love high-risk, high-reward gameplay and the thrill of outsmarting your opponents, the Succubus will keep your heart racing. So there you have it, 3 very different B-tier classes, each with their own flavor. Berserker for the wild tanks who love to dive head first, Warlord for the solid frontline fighters who balance offense and defense, and Succubus for the sneaky burst damage dealers who melt enemies before they even know what hit them. Which one matches your playstyle? Let me know in the comments. The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Priest and Gunner. Alright, let's talk about 2 A-tier classes that bring serious power and strategy to your team in the Dragon Odyssey. First up, the Priest. Not your average healer who just throws out heals and hopes for the best. No, the Priest is like the team's backbone, offering solid damage, but more importantly, insane survivability through healing and buffs. If you're the kind of player who loves being the unsung hero, keeping everyone alive through thick and thin, the Priest is your go-to. Just a heads up though, this class isn't exactly beginner-friendly. You need to think ahead, prioritize who needs healing, and time your buffs perfectly to really shine, especially in those nail-biting player versus environment raids or player versus player fights. The real magic happens when you promote the Priest to a Sage. That's when their healing and support powers go through the roof, turning them into an absolute lifesaver for any team. Imagine being the reason your whole squad survives a brutal boss fight or a hectic team battle. That's some next-level satisfaction. So if you enjoy a strategic, high-impact role that requires some brain power and a lot of heart, the Priest and its Sage upgrade will totally reward your efforts. Now switching gears to the Gunner. This one is pure agility and precision wrapped up in a powerful ranged package. Gunners are amazing at dealing with groups of enemies thanks to their strong area of effect attacks, making them perfect for clearing mobs in player versus environment content. When I played as a Gunner, I loved staying light on my feet, constantly moving and kiting enemies while unloading steady damage from afar. It's a playstyle that rewards quick reflexes and smart positioning. Gunners are fantastic at keeping their distance and picking off targets before they get close, which makes them highly effective in most player versus environment modes. However, their strength dips a bit in player versus player, especially in tight quarters or against super mobile opponents who can close the gap quickly. But promote that Gunner to Cannoneer, and their crowd control and damage output become even more devastating, making them a force to be reckoned with when you're mowing down waves of enemies. So if you like being the nimble sharpshooter who can turn the tide of battle with well-aimed shots and smart movement, the Gunner and its Cannoneer specialization are definitely worth mastering. Both Priest and Gunner classes bring a nice balance of offense and support to your team, making them excellent choices if you want to step up your game in the Dragon Odyssey. The classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Mage. Let me tell you, if you want to feel like an absolute powerhouse in the Dragon Odyssey, the Mage is where it's at. This class is basically the king of damage, especially when it comes to area of effect spells that can wipe out entire groups of enemies like they're nothing. From my experience, starting the game as a Mage felt like a cheat code. Just unleash those devastating spells and watch everything melt away. The Mage isn't just about raw power though. It also has decent survivability, which means you won't get squished the moment something sneezes at you. This balance makes it perfect for beginners who want to jump right into the action without feeling too fragile. Now, here's where things get really spicy. Promote your Mage to a Warlock, and suddenly, you're a PvP monster. The Warlock specialization amps up your damage output to insane levels, making you a nightmare for anyone unlucky enough to cross your path in player versus player battles. It's like going from a wizard who throws fireballs to one who commands entire storms of destruction. Pure chaos in the best way possible. So if you love the idea of being the main damage dealer who can control the battlefield with explosive magic, and you want a class that's both powerful and forgiving enough for newcomers, the Mage is absolutely your best bet. Trust me, once you get the hang of it, you'll be the one everyone calls when the big fight starts. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.